The revenue proposed through the tax measures announced in this budget will contribute largely to us providing 232.6 billion in additional funding to key programs over the medium term. This amounts to 102 billion in 25-26, 68 billion in 26-27, 62 billion in 27-28. The funding is for spending pressures for infrastructure investment, social protection, a higher than anticipated public service wage bill, a provisional allocation for to needy households. In 25-26, 83% of the local government equipped share provides free basic services package for R610 per month to 11.2 million poor households. Honourable members, this package of free municipality services continues to be a key tool for reducing poverty and inequality, raising living standards and facilitating access to a greater economic opportunity. Madam Speaker, a 3-year wage agreement has been reached, although the agreement exceeds the 2024 budget. In the medium-term budget policy statement projections, its duration reduces uncertainty in the budget planning. This agreement will cost an additional 7.3 billion in 25-26, 7.8 in 26-27, and 8.2 billion in 27-28. These are the comments that are outside margin for me. An amount of 11 billion rand provisionally allocated for the next 2 fiscal years for the early retirement initiative, whose intention is to attract younger employees into the public service. Preliminary savings are expected to average 7.1 billion per year over the medium term, long term. The savings will be retained by the departments. The interventions on the wage bill are aimed at ensuring that when key frontline staff are lost through natural attrition and retirement, sectors are able to fill vacant posts to keep service running effective. Paying salaries constitute 76% of the provincial education department. This means that only 24 rand out of every 100 rand of their budget is left for funding school infrastructure, meals for learners from poor backgrounds, and stationery and textbook, among other things. Our learner-teacher ratios remain higher than we would like, meaning that we still need more teachers in classroom. To prevent compensation of employees from crowding out other equally important areas of spending, 19.1 billion is added over the medium term to keep approximately 11,000 teachers in the classroom. The foundation to building in the next generation of citizens who contribute economically and socially to this great nation is in its early childhood development. Despite this, the subsidy for early childhood development has not increased from 2019 level of 17 rand per day per child. To remedy this, an amount of 10 billion over the medium term is allocated to increase subsidy to 24 rand per day per child. The extra funding will also support increased access to ECD for approximately 700,000 more children up to the age of 4 years old. Health spending will grow from 277 billion in 24-25 to 329 billion in 27-28 to support equitable provision of public health services, including free primary health care services. Like in provincial education, a significant portion of provincial health budget is spent on salaries and wages. 28.9 billion is added to the health budget, mainly to keep about 9,300 healthcare workers in our hospitals and clinics. It's also be used to employ the 800 post-community service doctors and to ensure that our pharmacists do not run out of medicine. Honorable members, social grants are allocated 284.7 billion rand in 25-26. This allows us to increase the old age grant, disability grant by 130 rand. Now let me tell you a story. I was working here in Waterfront. An old man comes to me and he says, thanks for the 150, but the 150 now is gone. He said, but I don't need that. Now, because of the reduction in the VAT, I had to reduce the 150 to 130. The child support grant by 30 rand. The foster care grant by 70 rand. The COVID-19 social relief in its current form will be extended by a year to March 2026. 35.52 billion rand is allocated for these tables. Let me correct correct a myth here. A myth that suggests that I'm trying to pose as two alternatives is either VAT or SRD. Didn't say that. What I did say is that the SRD has been a temporary grant. We have been debating to find a funding source for it so that it should not continue to crowd other spending. What we are attempting to do is to stabilize exactly that, to make sure that this grant is not only sustained, but it also does not crowd out other spending. We go on in this speech and in the previous one that leaked. Same sentence. As announced by the President in the State of the National Address, the SRD will be used as a basis for the introduction of sustainable form of income support for unemployed people. The future form and nature of the SRD will be informed by the outcome of the review of the Active Labour Market Policy Program. This is expected to be completed by September 2025. Madam Speaker, nearly 28 million beneficiaries will access social grants. The truth is that it is one of the most comprehensive social safety nets among emerging economies. This reflects our commitment to addressing poverty and inequality while keeping our spending sustainable. In this budget, we have also made a provision to replenish the funding for our security functions and peacekeeping commitments. 9.4 billion is allocated to fund the Defence Force and correctional services. Over the medium term, 5 billion has been allocated to the Department of Defense to support South Africa's participation in the SADC mission in the Democratic Republic of Congo and to supplement existing peacekeeping activities. We will continue working with the Department of Defense on ways to change the composition of expenditure to modernize the defense force moving forward. Madam Speaker, combating financial crimes and corruption is essential to protecting the integrity of our economy and the institutions that foster stability and social well-being. Funds are allocated for enhancing the financial forensic and accounting capabilities in our law enforcement institutions, further strengthening our ability to detect and prosecute complex economic crimes. These efforts address recommendations from the Financial Action Task Force and the State Capital Commission, ensuring that we continue to fight money laundering and the financing of terrorism with urgency and precision. There are remaining issues that require work during the year, which may require funding later in the year. These include infrastructure projects in the BFI, the rolling stock fleet renewal program, accommodating population changes that impact on provincial equitable share, in particular the 3 provinces, strengthening capability in the Office of the Chief Justice, Statistics South Africa and the South African Revenue Service were already attending to it. An issue which has been raised is also the issue of political funding and infrastructure provision for real houses. Madam Speaker, our ability to deliver public service depends on having a competent, capable, and ethical state. Delivering a reliable and sustainable core services is a priority for this government. Our focus must remain on more effective and efficient service delivery and proper combination between personal expenditure, operating costs, and the maintenance of fiscal facilities and assets, supported by professional and efficient administration. For over a decade, budgets have been trimmed across the board. While these measures have helped maintain fiscal discipline, they have often been implemented without a thorough interrogation of whether the funds we allocate truly support our national priorities. We must acknowledge that over time, budgets tend to grow incrementally, often carrying forward historical allocations without necessarily reflecting the evolving needs of our country. This approach has led to inefficiencies, misalignment, duplication, and in some cases, the continued funding of programs that do not yield the intended impact. We recognize the urgent need to address this. We are not deaf to the public concerns about wasteful and inefficient expenditure. We know that we must earn the taxpayers' trust every day by spending public money with care and ensuring that every rand collected is spent on its intended purpose. Since 2013, as part of the ongoing evaluation of the operation of government, national treasuries and provincial treasuries have undertaken 240 spending reviews. These reviews range from a number of things such as office accommodation, fleet management, and so on. However, we have agreed, out of a long discussion with colleagues in government, including the President, that we need to focus on this area of spending reviews, and as such, change the institutional arrangements that we have and locate spending reviews in the President's office. In that sense, incorporate some of that work to the Operation Vulindlela moving forward. So we are going to give that institutional capability moving forward. The consolidated recommendations of these reviews and other things, including this, as I've indicated, the President has also undertaken to do this, to take this work together with National Treasury. Thank you for this commitment, Mr. President. As the National Treasury, we are ready to take the lead to improve effectiveness and efficiency of spending. We will, together with the President, undertake an audit of ghost workers, starting in national and provincial departments. Use the ongoing detailed review of labor market activity provision and public employment program to consolidate and rationalize to reduce duplications and improve operational efficiency across more than 100 active labor market programs in over 20 public institutions. The recommendation of this review will also be presented to Cabinet in due course. The entire public employment ecosystem. The aim of this review is Treasury will implement a significant change to the budget process by reassessing the initial assumptions informing budget allocations with a view to creating room for improving spending. Madam Speaker, these reviews go beyond mere cost-cutting measures. They are allowed to systematically assess whether public expenditure is effectively aligned with the priorities of the government and whether it delivers the best possible value for money and impact for the people of South Africa while keeping us on the path of fiscal sustainability. These initiatives will give impetus to the slow implementation of the recommendation of this planning review. I call on ministers, MECs, DGs, HODs, and every official responsible for public funds to embrace these efforts and play their part. The proliferation of conditional grant has necessitated a review of the conditional grant system to reduce duplication and improve effectiveness of the programs. This project will implement the first phase of the recommendations of the review and include merging conditional grants in the basic education and agricultural sector. Preference-based conditional grants to metropolitan municipalities are also introduced, linked to institutional governance and financial reforms to improve services. Madam Speaker, the incentives in our current disaster management system are skewed towards relief and rehabilitation, when mitigation and readiness to minimize damage is the most cost-effective response. Our municipalities stand at the front line of disaster response, yet they are hamstrung by aging infrastructure, bureaucratic fragmentation, and limited access to emergency funds. The priority is to reduce the administrative burden to access emergency funds. Every hour of delay costs lives and livelihoods. Continuous improvements are made to the grant system to incentivize municipalities to access a variety of funding instruments for disasters. These include their own budget, the contingency reserve, conditional grant funding, and insurance. The budget allocates 1.7 billion to respond to future disasters over the medium term, while 4 billion is provisionally allocated to address backlogs recovery efforts for provinces and municipalities. The decline in municipality services is evident across cities. Towns and rural villages highlights the systematic challenges faced by this varying group of municipalities. As outlined by the President in his State of the Nation address, phase 2 of Operation Vulindlela, the institutional structure of local government will be reviewed through the updating of the white paper of local government. In line with the Constitution, the principle of funds follow functions. The review of local government fiscal framework will examine how to appropriately finance local government relative to their functions and their form. Reforms to the revenue-generating service of local government, namely water and sanitation and electricity and refuse removal, are underway. So, the 8 metropolitan municipalities have met the minimum requirement for participation in the Financial Performance Incentive Grant, the Urban Development Financing Grant. Further allocations in the grant are dependent on municipalities meeting specific targets related set out in their performance improvement action plans. For 25-26, this includes critical institutional governance and management changes to creating an enabling environment for local term investment infrastructure. By ring-fencing the revenues from these services and running operating surpluses, these business units can generate I'm not saying these units can generate funds for infrastructure improvements to deliver quality services. Madam Speaker, in conclusion, allow me to reiterate that through the policy choices we have made and the carefully targeted allocations we are proposing, the public institution should be in a better position to continue delivering much-needed services. This budget reflects our collective efforts to chart a path through difficult times to prosperity. It represents a vision of future and realistic assessment of the present, as well as the options available to us right now. This vision can only be achieved by making difficult but considered policy choices, choices that weigh up trade-offs and commit to a way forward. Honourable members, this budget is a product of a combined and careful consideration of the Cabinet of the Government of National Unity. Despite some minor disagreements, I must confess, that has done the difficult and necessary work of assessing the alternatives open to us at the current conjuncture in our growth journey. Honourable members, this budget is also a proposal to you as Parliament that has been democratically elected to represent the aspirations and interests of South Africans by confronting the difficult choices needed to move our country forward. It is in this spirit that I draw to the words of the Pan-African leader Amar Kabar, who advises us, always bear in mind that the people are not fighting for ideas, but for things for things in anyone's mind. They are fighting to win material benefits, to live better and in peace, and to see their lives go forward to guarantee the future of their children. The policy choices proposed here are about achieving these material benefits. They are about moving South Africa and all South Africans forward into a better, more prosperous and equitable future. Speaker, as I close, allow me to express my deepest gratitude to the President and Deputy President for their counsel, their support, and for their leadership, in particular in this difficult budget. Thank you also to the Deputy Ministers of Finance and the excellent National Treasury team led by the Director General. Thank you to the Commissioner for the South African Revenue Services and the Governor of the South African Stewardship of these two key institutions. Thank you to my Cabinet colleagues, the Ministers' Committee in the Budget, and the Budget Council who share the heavy load of the tough decisions that must make to maintain this sustainability of our public finances. To the Parliamentary Standing Committees of Finance, Appropriation and Public Account, I expressed my sincere appreciation. And of course, out of this threat, without the support of my wife and my family, it would not have been as easy as it would just a momentary that I've been able to withstand who continue to entrust their aspiration to us. I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Thank you. Can I allow members to take their seats? Honourable members, order. We have now heard the Minister tabling the executive statement, which is a budget. It is tabled here in the House. Now the task is for you as Parliament to then reflect on this budget through the relevant committees. The papers tabled, order. Order, Honourable order. Thank you. Honourable members, order. Order. Honourable members, just ignore the people that are going out. Allow me to address you. You have now heard the budget tabled. Order. Honourable members, you will have your chance to address the media as you go out. But for now, just listen. The budget has been tabled. It is now going to be referred to relevant committees to interact with the budget, which allows you an opportunity as public representative to engage with this executive statement. and it will then come back for debate in this very house where you will express your views. For now, the house is adjourned and we thank the minister for the